Let us now continue with the topic the emergence of nationalism in India. Let us move on to page number 52 of your textbook subtitled The Simon Commission. The Simon Commission came to India in 1927. Towards the late 1920s, two factors influenced the Indian politics. Firstly, the British government appointed a commission under the chairmanship of Sir John Simon in 1927 to review the nationalistic development in India. And secondly, to see to the economic depression of 1929, which brought a decline in the agricultural prices. As a result of this, exports declined and the peasants found it difficult to pay their revenue. The Simon Commission had no Indian as a member, and all its members were British. This was resented by the Indians. Resented by the Indians means the Indians were against this, that all the members of the Simon Commission were British and there was no Indian representative. So when this Simon Commission landed in India, it was greeted with the slogan, Simon, go back. There were protests throughout the nation, and both the Congress and the Muslim League participated in it. At the time of the arrival of the Simon Commission, there was a procession at Lahore. In this procession, Lala Lajpat Rai was brutally lathi-charged by the British police. He succumbed to his injuries. To succumb to injuries means to die. Lalaji was often considered as the symbol of power, and Gandhiji had remarked, as long as the sun shines in the Indian sky, persons like Lalaji will not die. So here we can infer that Lala Lajpat Rai, who was also known as Lalaji, was a very great and powerful freedom fighter. After the death of Lalaji, the young revolutionary leader Bhagat Singh from Punjab vowed that he would take revenge against the death of Lalaji. Bhagat Singh was a member of the Hindustan Socialist Republican Association. Chandrasekhar Azad was another revolutionary leader. Bhagat Singh also led the Naujawan Bharat Sabha. Once, when the British were having a meeting in the Legislative Assembly, Bhagat Singh threw a bomb into the assembly to make the deaf British hear. He also killed John Saunders, a British officer, mistaking him to be the one responsible for the death of Lalaji. Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad, Rajguru, Sukhdev, Prafulla Chaki, Ramprasad Bismil, Ashfaqullah Khan, Surja Sen, Khudiram Bose were some of the revolutionaries who believed in violent action to achieve independence for the motherland India. Besides men, there were also some women who participated in the revolutionary movement of India's freedom struggle. They were Kalpana Datta, Beena Das, Pritilata Vadekar, Smriti Chowdhury, and Shanti Ghosh cannot be forgotten. Madam Bikaji Kama was a great lady freedom fighter in the early years of our freedom struggle. She unfurled the Indian flag in Germany for the first time. We will now move on to the next subtopic, the demand for complete independence. The Indian National Congress held its annual session, that means its annual meeting, at Lahore in 1929. This meeting was a very important one because the leadership of the Congress was passed from Father Motilal Nehru to son Jawaharlal Nehru, and a resolution demanding Purna Swaraj was passed at this meeting. At this meeting, it was decided that 26 January 1930 would be celebrated as India's Independence Day. And this was done to prepare the Indians to fight against the British. At this meeting, the Congress passed a resolution of civil disobedience movement. The non-cooperation movement had failed to achieve its goals. The two important objectives of the non-cooperation movement were the reinstitution of the Turkish Caliphate and the demand for Swaraj. Since the non-cooperation movement failed, a new movement known as the civil disobedience movement began in India. We will now study about the civil disobedience movement in India. The civil disobedience movement differed from the non-cooperation movement. The non-cooperation movement tried to stop the working of the British government by not cooperating with the administration. But the civil disobedience movement was a little different. It tried to paralyze. To paralyze means to stop the British administration by performing a number of illegal activities. In the Lahore session, full powers were given to Mahatma Gandhi to start a mass movement. Mahatma Gandhi gave this movement the form of a civil disobedience movement. Before launching this movement, that is the civil disobedience movement, to the British government, the first demand put forth by Gandhiji was the abolition of the salt tax. The abolition means to put an end to the salt tax. The British had imposed a tax on salt. Gandhiji did not want that people who are involved in the extraction of salt should pay a salt tax. He also demanded that liquor should be prohibited. Prohibited means it should not be used. He also asked the British to end the monopoly of the British government to manufacture salt. But the British government rejected all the demands made by Gandhiji. Therefore, Gandhiji decided to start a countrywide satyagraha by breaking the Salt Act. To break the Salt Act, Gandhiji had the Dandi March. This Dandi March was held in the year 1930. Since the British had imposed a salt tax, Gandhiji on 12th March 1930, along with his followers, began his 385 kilometers march from Sabarmati Ashram to Dandi on the seashore in Gujarat. On the way to Dandi, Gandhiji addressed the people in different villages. He called upon the people to join the civil disobedience movement fearlessly. On 5th April 1930, Gandhiji picked up a fistful of salt and broke the Salt Act. A fistful means a handful of salt. The whole country was shocked by this act of Gandhiji, and this salt satyagraha was launched on many sea beaches in Maharashtra, Orissa, Gujarat and Madras. Slowly the Indians began violating many of the laws laid down by the British. In the interior part of the country, the people violated the forest laws. A number of women took part in this satyagraha movement. Sarojini Naidu, Kamla Devi Chattopadhyay, Kamla Nehru, and Sucheta Kriplani were some of the women. While all this was happening, the reaction of the British government was in the form of arrest on a large scale. They forcibly confiscated salt that was collected by the people. The British banned the meetings and processions. They even lathi-charged the people and fired at them. When this happened, many people were injured and a number of them also died. On the 9th of 4th May 1930, Gandhiji was arrested. At this time, there was a lot of confusion in the country. Hindus and Muslims together joined the movement. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, who was the organizer of Khudai Khidmat Kar in northwest India, also joined the movement. Most of the Indians, young and old, women, children, everyone joined this movement. To avoid violence, Mahatma Gandhi entered into a pact with Viceroy Lord Irwin. Soon, Gandhiji was invited for the Round Table Conference in London to discuss the constitutional reforms for India. Gandhiji only attended the second Round Table Conference but returned back very disappointed.